Just as we published our second video about how Cotham School was able to put up its fence at Stoke Lodge without any planning application, we received more information and emails by way of disclosure, so we can now fill in a few more of the gaps in the timeline with greater certainty. As a reminder, on the 25th of May 2018, Cotham School published plans to erect perimeter fencing at the edge of their lease line at Stoke Lodge, with just a couple of bits of walkway, some of it dead ends, that it would leave for the community to use. Note that there are markings on this plan for proposed improvements to provide access-friendly entrances, but we've now been told that the school does not intend to fulfil this commitment. On the 13th of July 2018, the BCC Director of Finance wrote to the school confirming that they would need to make a planning application for the fence and indicating that access issues needed to be addressed, among other things, and that community consultation would be required. On the 20th of July, Darren Jones MP hosted a mediation meeting at which community representatives put forward to the school a package of measures to meet the school's safeguarding requirements and even offered to work in partnership with the school to raise funds to provide better facilities for all. The school was asked to consider those proposals over the summer. As you heard last time, we now know that from the 3rd of August onwards, the school was actively meeting with council officers and working towards the objective of reversing the view that the land was the curtilage of Stoke Lodge, so that it could avoid making a planning application. Despite confirmations given by the Head of Development Management both to councillors and to We Love Stoke Lodge, the planning team changed the council's position on curtilage without waiting to receive external legal advice. BCC's internal legal team gave a view on the 17th of September 2018, based on the letter from the school's planning consultants, that the playing fields were not within the curtilage of the listed building. We know that the school held a meeting with the planning team on Friday the 21st of September. It was after this meeting that the school governor who's driving the Stoke Lodge project wrote to say that you are now going to work positively with Cotham to enable us to get back to our playing fields as soon as possible. We now have the agenda for that meeting on the 21st of September, and it includes as a discussion item BCC response to Cotham's case re the issue of listed building curtilage and impact on whether planning approval required for the fence. In other words, it seems the school was told at this meeting, if not before, what the planning team's new view was going to be. We don't know at what point it was decided to get a supporting external legal opinion, nor whether it was the school who suggested where the planning team could find a barrister who would give the opinion they wanted. What we do know, as we said before, is that BCC officers were briefed on the new not curtilage view by Wednesday of the following week, even though the external opinion wasn't received until Friday the 28th. So the Head of Development Management must have been confident of what the external advice was going to be. Even though the evidence was so flawed, the advice was a done deal. That's underlined by an exchange of emails on the following Tuesday, the 2nd of October. The Cotham Governor writes to the BCC planning team asking whether they know when the barrister's opinion is expected. The reply from the planning team comes back the same day, and it says all the school needed to know. I have received the council's opinion on the listed curtilage issue, and there are no surprises there. Note, he doesn't say that the opinion confirms the internal legal advice. He doesn't have to. He doesn't say what level of confidence the barrister gave about the decision on the evidence provided. He just says there are no surprises there. In other words, the external advice says what the planning team and the school both expected it to say, what they commissioned it to say. So when Gary Collins wrote to We Love Stoke Lodge about his decision on the curtilage issue, and said that he changed his view based on the letter from the school's planning consultants, which we know was highly flawed, and on external legal advice, that's just not true. The decision came first, and the advice, whatever it said and whatever question it was actually answering, was a foregone conclusion. The school made multiple statements about what would happen if it didn't get its way with the perimeter fencing. There's a letter dated the 18th of August 2018 from the head teacher to the BCC planning team saying that if they don't get what they want, that is, a fence with no planning application, then, failing this, the City Council must find us alternative playing fields as per our lease. And the minutes of the meeting of the 3rd of August 2018 record a statement that it was noted that the City Council has a duty as landlord through the lease to make sure the playing fields are fit for purpose. Actually, neither of those statements is true. When the lease was granted, the school negotiated for and got a one-way break clause because it was already looking for alternative playing fields. Remember that by 2011, Cotham was already choosing to provide most of its off-site sports lessons at Coombe Dingle Sports Complex, not at Stoke Lodge, and had done so for many years. It requested the option to be able to end the lease on 3 months' notice if it found an alternative, and we understand that several have been offered over the years. But there is no duty on the council to provide an alternative, and if the school did find another site and chose to terminate the lease, that needn't be an additional burden for the council. There are plenty of community sports trust models now up and running, for example at Penn Park. Nor does the council have a duty under the lease to maintain the playing fields. That's down to the school. And there is no reason to assume that being fit for purpose involves security fencing. There are multiple other sites in Bristol that are used for school sports that have public access and no perimeter fence. If the council is really saying that to be fit for purpose for school use a fence is required, then is public access to all those sites also under threat? Were the officers at the meeting unduly influenced by misrepresentations from the school about the lease? And if so, why didn't they just check? It's also recorded in the minutes of that meeting that the council had reviewed the school's 2014 risk assessment and felt that of the 3 fencing proposals suggested, option 3 was the most suitable. Option 3 is not a full perimeter fence. It's an L-shaped fence around 2 sides of the boundary of the lower field. That's what the council thought was most suitable, and actually it's the least fencing of the 3 options proposed. In the face of all of that, officers were persuaded to give the school a free hand to do whatever it wanted on this historic and beautiful estate. Obviously, we believe that the fence was not permitted under the lease because it is actually a structure. But if Tim O'Gara, the monitoring officer, is right, and somehow the fence can be said to have non-structural qualities and to be permitted under the lease, then consider this. The lease requires that the tenant carries out any works permitted by this lease so that any easements, rights, privileges or liberties which third parties enjoy in, over or under the property are not interfered with. All of our liberties are being interfered with by the fence, by gates being locked at random times, and by repeated threats from the school to lock us out permanently. For some, access has been taken away altogether because of the lack of appropriate entrances and gates. Our mayor has said he has no power to intervene, but as landlord the council has every right and duty to take action against a tenant that breaches the terms of its lease. Councillors have already expressed the view that BCC's response should be robust. So when can we look forward to our council, as landlord, taking action for breach of this lease?